Hello and welcome back to the United Devils podcast. Today we're going to be discussing United's Christmas fixtures against Everton and Leicester before previewing their next matches going into the new year against Wolves and Aston Villa at Old Trafford. With me today, I welcome back Prashanth, and we're going to start with the Carabao Cup because obviously we did miss the Leeds game in the mix because so many matches have happened in this time. While we will say fantastic performance, absolutely dominant for the full 90, and it was a brilliant display, and even for neutrals you could say it was a fantastic game. But we're going to talk about the Everton match because it was almost a far more crucial match because it was a chance to make a statement to win trophies, especially against a team that was in form and in their own ground, where we did beat them earlier in the campaign. And United started brilliantly. The first 25 minutes was full of attacking potential, but couldn't bury the chances for one reason or the other. And then the game sort of started to slow down, both teams not really willing to commit bodies forward either way, just in case the other hit them on the counter. Some controversial moments through the game, including with the goal winner, game winner, Edison Cavani with his fantastic left-footed finish. And Martial came on with the assist for Cavani and sealed the game off for 2-0, and United now obviously play City once again in the Carabao Cup semi-final. Firstly, about the match, did that seem like it felt pragmatic to me? Did it feel like an almost, dare to say, Jose Mourinho-esque cup performance?
I didn't want to use the word Jose Mourinho, but yeah, it did feel. Nemanja Matic, that game, I really don't know what was up to him. He was so slow in the midfield. I honestly expected Matic to release the ball a lot quicker, especially against a team like Everton, who start hounding you once you have the ball. And Matic was pretty slow that game. But overall, I would still take that game, in a way where United were like, yeah, they need to go and win. But yeah, definitely there was a lot of pragmatism there. But what really pleased me that game was Bruno Fernandes not having any involvement in that game at all. He had a very average game, and I like that because more often than not, we've always looked up to him to bail us out of trouble. That game, everyone else stood up. I mean, I wouldn't say everyone else stood up, but at least someone else put their hand up and say, you know what, I'm going to get out of this mess. So that was a pleasing moment for me, and I think one more actually important point for me for that game was Mason Greenwood. He looks someone who's getting back to the rhythm. So that was pretty important for us because I don't want to see Dan James on the right hand side anymore. I'm happy that we play Dan James whenever we can, but I don't want to see any more of Dan James on the right side, and I really want Mason Greenwood to start for us often now.
Well, I'll go back to the first part. I was a bit confused where you were leading with that, but I'm glad it went that way, yeah, because that does make a lot of sense. I think the fact is that people do say that we are very reliant on Bruno Fernandes, and obviously his stat padding in the Premier League, 31 goals and assists in 28 games is astounding, regardless of the penalty claims, which are only 8 of those. So it's really important that, like you said, the team does perform even when he's not playing at his best.
Yeah.
I thought especially a lot of credit should go to Axel Tuanzebe, who was playing out of position and played very well in the right back role against Richarlison, who is a fantastic player. About Dan James and Greenwood.
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
we were crying for Van de Beek, right? Van de Beek has to start. And poor guy started, and we put him on the wings. Like we literally shunned him to the left hand side, and he hardly had an impact in that game because all the time he was getting the ball and was trying to drive ahead, but there was no one in the midfield because Matic was slow. So eventually, what Van de Beek did was he got the ball, he tried to feed to Bruno, but then Bruno couldn't do much. So now most of the United fans, or at least some part of the United fans, are saying that Van de Beek should play in the midfield more than on the left. But right now, our midfielders, Fred, McTominay, Bruno, Pogba, are all kind of improving their own standards little by little. Now, Van de Beek feels left out. And this goes back to the start of season where his agent said, then, I don't know why United bought him. That kind of a statement. If you had 7 midfielders, then you buy him in. And then once you start playing him, you play him on the left-hand side, where he left or the right side, either ways of the wing, and he hardly has an impact. Now, look at the fixture runs which we are going to have. I really feel this is the time where Van de Beek should start games now. Because our midfield right now needs someone who can bring more space and lift the burden of Bruno Fernandes' shoulder. And I have a feeling that this festive season, it might just be Van de Beek's time of the season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one thing that Joe and I talked about last week was that players that come from other leagues do tend to struggle. We've seen it so many times down the years. We're seeing it now with Havertz and Werner, who are really
Yeah.
struggling to adapt to the Premier League, and it is showing, and that's why Havertz is no longer starting. And I think
Mm.
Van der Beek could have done with a pre-season that we couldn't have had due to the COVID issues in the Europa League mini tournament. So I think he's now having to be bled into the team very slowly. And we've seen lots of promising parts. We've seen him play brilliantly against Southampton, against Leipzig, and against
PSG.
PSG.
Yeah.
And I think just sort of a few snippets in the Carabao Cup. But the fact is that he's not quite ready yet. I think, like you said, I really hope Bruno is rested against Aston Villa, which we'll get to in a bit. I don't think he'll play against Wolves, and I do expect Pogba to start that game. But we'll get to that in a few minutes. But it's a big test for him in the next few games because we're playing so many matches, and we've still got a couple of games in hand, and with the few cups we're in, there's going to be plenty of time and plenty of chances for rotation, which again I've seen a lot of criticism for actually rotating the squad in a heavy fixture list, which I
Just to
get.
add to the links of Werner and Kai Havertz, there's one player who Chelsea fans had signed, and he has been brilliant for them last season and this season as well, bits and pieces, is Christian Pulisic. For the first half of last season, Christian Pulisic looked like fish out of water. He didn't
Yeah.
know what Premier League was all of the sudden. And then in the later half of the season, especially after January, Christian Pulisic was their talisman. I really hope that Van de Beek starts in these coming games because we really need that kind of rotation so that we can rest of frontline players. But above all, I want Van de Beek to succeed well because he's a rare kind of a player. We have players who can drive the ball from midfield. We have players who can take a distant long shot. Someone like a Pogba. We have a workhorse in the midfield, but we don't have someone who can make chances for himself. And all top teams have one or those kind of players. Like City have Ferran Torres on the wings. He can make chances for himself even in spite of not being involved throughout the game. When you talk about someone like Liverpool, you have Diego Jota, who would again make chance for himself. And Van de Beek is that sort of player. So I really hope that he starts adjusting to the pace of this league very quickly now.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously going to be someone that's going to. I mean, with the team that we have, he is going to not be guaranteed a starting position. He's got to force his way in and fight his way in, and that's the part about a United team that we need a world-class bench, and we need players that can come off and make a difference. And we have those now. We do need a few more, especially with the injuries we have at the back. But it's certainly a step forward, and he is certainly a step in the right direction too. Going on to that, we'll go on to the Leicester game now. And obviously, a win would have made United indefinitely second place, regardless of the results that happened, and started very brightly. Could have had an easy opener in the first minute or so, but Rashford blazed over pretty much an open goal from a good position made from Bruno Fernandes, but made amends almost with a really lovely finish not 15 minutes after. However, United immediately conceded again with a fantastic strike from Harvey Barnes, although a couple of midfielders were a bit culpable in that goal. We'll get on to in a bit. But then United rallied in the second half, brought on the super subs of Pogba and Cavani, and they made a difference. And obviously Cavani setting up Bruno for a second goal. And then again, we conceded a second goal, and it was a brilliant cross from Perez, who wasn't closed down, and Vardy just peeled off to deflect it onto Tuanzebe to go in. And it was
What he did, what he does always.
Exactly. But let's go into the two goals that we scored. Bruno Fernandes obviously involved in both, and as I said before, 31 goals and assists in 28 games. He's been a sensation, has he not?
What else do we expect from a signing, right? I mean, we wanted a signing who would stabilize the midfield. He did. We wanted a leader. We have. We wanted someone to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and then say, you know what, I'm here to win it for you. He's been doing it. You want him to score goals, he does it at will. You want him to assist, he does. No matter what the situation is, if the 10 players are failing, there's only one guy who always stands up and who says that, you know what, I'm here to win. I don't care the rest of 10 of you, but I want to win this game. And that's Bruno Fernandes in a nutshell. And when people compare him to Eric Cantona, I honestly can't understand how much of an impact Eric Cantona would have had. I mean, you think about this history of this club, we always say that Eric Cantona is one signing who changed the direction of Manchester United for the betterment. And the old lot who I speak to quite often, people who are in the late 70s, 80s, they say that when we look at Bruno Fernandes, we kind of look at Eric Cantona, and that's not because of the statistics. It's because of the impact he has on the pitch. That's the football part of it. Now look at the non-football part of it. I read an interview which he gave to, I think, BT Sport the other day. He said, in the first year of United, I've had everything. I had the stats to prove I was a good midfielder. But what I didn't have is trophies. And that's not what I want every year of my life to be. When someone comes out in the first 6 months of a club tenure and says that I am not coming here to just get the stats, I want to win trophies, you know you have signed a quality player. And there was a reason why Sporting was so reluctant to let him go. I mean, it was not just the financial part of it. You can't replace these players with money. If we give 100 million to Sporting, Sporting cannot buy any other big player and then have a similar kind of impact what Bruno had. And what Bruno Fernandes is doing for us is right now, he's making others dream that if I want to win the trophy, so are you. And together we can win it. And that's an important part of a leader. It's not just his own belief, he's also transferring that belief to a lot of young players. You look at the finish against Leeds when Dan James had it. He was the first to run and congratulate him because he knew how much the goal meant to him. Because a player who's not been playing since what, October now, he last played in Chelsea game, I think. Then coming on to the game, was running throughout the game, finished, and Bruno Fernandes ran quickly and just hugged him and said, you know what, good goal. These are the small things the leader has to do. We were missing that. I mean, and no disrespect to Harry Maguire, but Bruno Fernandes is a leader without an armband already. And all the 10 of the guys or the 11 of the guys, whoever is playing in that game, everyone is looking up to Bruno. I mean, you look at it, when we get the ball, we all pass to Bruno. And as fans, we expect Bruno to produce some kind of magic. That's the standard which he already set. Now the challenge for him, comes, how much can he do more? Like, how long will he keep doing it? This is where I said in the first part of the interview that, other 10 people have to stand up now. It can't be Bruno always. We are not a club which revolves around a single human being like a Barcelona did for almost a decade, where they knew that just pass the ball to Messi, he will finish it. There was a collective effort which went in the later half. So we are getting to a stage where we need to find a better player than Bruno from the current lot itself. Someone has to put their hand up and say, you know what, not always him. Today is my day as well.
Well, yeah, and of course we've got a lot of very good players. I mean, they're not. I wouldn't. I think Bruno's one of our best players. I couldn't quite see anyone topping him. Definitely, but there are certainly players around there that are just as good, if not slightly worse. But Paul Pogba's one of them, who obviously made a massive difference when he came on, but he doesn't look like he's going to be staying for another 12 months. Marcus Rashford is the one that got the goal to open the scoring, but missed two big chances. However, let's talk about the positives first. 50 goals in the Premier League for Marcus Rashford, and 31 of them have come under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. How much of an impact have the two made with each other?
Whenever I look at Marcus Rashford, right, he always reminds me of one of those guys who you grew up playing football, and whenever he scores, you get so much happiness because it's Marcus Rashford. We have seen him as a young guy who started against Michelin, came, kind of scored a goal from Juan Mata assist, then the Arsenal game. It's a step-by-step progress for him. Suddenly, under Jose Mourinho, we expected Martial and him to start leading the lines. Then he had a back injury. Last season was hit and miss for him because last season was all about Anthony Martial show. But this year, apart from all the efforts he's done during the pandemic time by providing food to children, etc., etc., Marcus Rashford, I think, has suddenly become a man from a boy. Because right now, he's starting to take responsibilities on the left-hand side very quickly. His understanding with Luke Shaw has got better. That's probably because Luke Shaw has stayed fit for longest amount of time he's known. Now I see an incisive Marcus Rashford rather than just a winger who wants to run. But again, his finishing lacks a great deal. He's still not a number 9 for us, still not a great finisher, which I think will improve. The more he plays as a number 9, he will improve. But we can't have the luxury of playing Rashford as a number 9. But having said that, I like this year's Marcus Rashford more than what he was for 2-3 years for us, because this Marcus Rashford is a much more matured footballer. He knows when to cross. He knows when to stop the game. There was a part, I think in the Leeds game, there was a part where he slowed down the game, where he quickly saw his teammates were getting tired because of constant running against the Leeds, the whole opposition. He slowed down the game. That's not a Marcus Rashford we saw. We saw a Marcus Rashford against West Ham where he dribbled between two players and then he scored a worldie couple of years back. Now we are seeing a Marcus Rashford who's looking after the team even during the attack or during the transition phase. Most of the times wingers don't do that. Most players don't do that. Forget wingers. This is a much more matured Marcus Rashford, and all the credit for this, I would definitely give it to one man, which is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer,
Mm,
because he's not only improving Marcus Rashford as a footballer, he's improving Marcus Rashford as a thinking footballer. Now Rashford thinks, you can have a young player with great potential but cannot live up to it. He's okay to have Marcus Rashford with great potential, but he wants Rashford to start thinking for the team. And it's quite important because when once you are near the fulcrum of the attack, you always look at Bruno and Rashford playing close to each other most of the times. He is rubbing that vibe off. Bruno might be rubbing that vibe off to Rashford, but Rashford has started to think, and that's a very good sign because sometimes the game has to be slowed down, and especially against Leeds because we saw the team was almost tired. They were fatigued because Leeds were quite happy to let us run. And Rashford took that decision to slow down the game. Not once, couple of times during that game. Rashford did that. I saw Bruno doing it during the game because we were hounding Calvin Phillips. We were just not giving them rest at all. So it's
mm,
important that Marcus Rashford as a player also improves. And of course, I'm too small of a human being to comment on how much good deeds he has done for people in England. Because at 20, 22 years of age, if you have that kind of maturity, I mean, what an upbringing you might have had as a human being. And that's something special. We are proud to have Marcus Rashford. Everton fans raised that banner for us. I mean, what more do you want from rival fans respecting someone who can feed off kids or feed kids and then come back to the pitch and then stamp his authority always? But
mm.
like I said, his finishing has to improve, and I think he'll only get better. It's just a matter of time for him.
And of course, with players like Cavani in the team that
Yeah,
can obviously teach him a lot, he's only going to improve more. He's only 23 and he's still playing fantastic football. And again, like you said, credit has to be given to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for improving the whole of our attacking play. Think about Martial, who scored 30% of all of his goals for United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in just 2 years. I mean, it
yeah,
shows a lot of progress. But again, a no clean sheet away from home, 2 goals conceded very cheaply. The first goal, Bruno really gave it away sloppily to Ndidi, and then McTominay failed to close down Barnes. And then the second goal, no one closed down Ayoze Perez, which is Shaw's job. It was Fred also pressing. I think Justin and Pogba was literally
yeah.
screaming at his teammates to get there. I've seen Shaw concede that kind of position against Son in the Tottenham game earlier this season. So I would more attribute the blame to him, even though he had a fantastic game for the rest of it. Um, these are the kind of mistakes that will cost us a title race, will cost us a trophy, and have cost us trophies with the severe crosses that came in
Yeah.
earlier this season. We could have lost the game against Brighton. The crosses against Leipzig, for goodness sake. I mean, all of these positions have cost us valuable goals and points in the game. I mean, how do you solve the issue?
I was just reading an article on Athletic a couple of days back about Leicester and Vardy, etc., etc. There was a moment where I think it was I don't remember who wrote it. The journalist wrote it that whenever you're playing against Jamie Vardy, you can have a lapse of concentration while you are about to enter the pitch. You cannot have a lapse of concentration when Jamie Vardy is on the pitch because he is a sniffer. He will wait for those chances. And Jamie Vardy has been doing that in the Premier League for a good half a decade now. We all know it, right? Like if Jamie Vardy runs at you or if he gets half a chance, it will be an attempt at the goal. Forget goal or not goal, there will be an attempt. And Jamie Vardy has been doing it for years. That Jamie Vardy goal defined Jamie Vardy's entire Premier League career. Half a chance, someone else's mistake, boom, goal, and he's off. Right? He just finished it and he went back as if it's business usual for him. That and the build up to that entire goal, right? If you look at it, Jamie Vardy was constantly running and sniffing for those chances. He saw that United defenders weren't great during set pieces, and defending set pieces hasn't been our greatest strength either. We have Lindelof who isn't great in the air. Then we have Harry Maguire who's already marking 2 or 3 people on his own. Then we don't have anyone who marks the near post or the far post. If you look at where David Daya was standing, Dean Henderson was standing, and where other couple of people are standing during the Champions League games as well, we don't mark the post very clearly as some of the Premier League teams do. Right. Once Jamie Vardy got that ball, There was only one way. There was only one winner in it. I wasn't pretty shocked we conceded because it was the game was edging to that sense where Leicester were knocking on to the doors again and again and again. Now the first goal, right? Harvey Barnes' goal. What a belter! I mean, when I looked at the goal, I was like, damn, you don't give that kind of space to a Premier League player.
Mm,
That's criminal. Who's at fault for it? A lot of people said Maguire because he should have tackled it apparently. I don't think so. The first fault there is Fred and McTominay. They should have closed him down. They shouldn't have given him that kind of pace. The second part of the argument there came David Dea should have done better, it seems. I mean,
mm,
I honestly don't think that if it was hit, it was meant to stay. It wasn't a random Paul Pogba shot where it was going to the second tier of the stands. No, it was Harvey Barnes. That's his radar. He's known to score those kind of goals. The first job as a midfielder. I mean, let's go back to what Roy Keane said, right? Your job as a midfielder is to stop those shots. You cannot let anyone take a free shot at your goal. You can't do that. Fred and McTominay majorly to blame for the goal. I'll not blame David Daya, but having said that, I think United's defense is still not ready to challenge for a Premier League title. We can't have a Robin Van Persie kind of a season where we are going to win every game 3-2, 3-1. You know, we are still not we are still not at that stage. The defense is still very at a nascent stage. Although, as much as I like Victor Lindelof playing as a centre back, but I really think as long as Victor Lindelof is there at our defense, we will struggle with these corners. And that's probably because it's not his biggest forte, and we can't do anything about it until unless we sign a world class centre back in January, which looks like a far fetched dream as of now.
Well, I mean, as a result of that, I mean, our poll results came back today, and they want to talk about David Alaba and a potential
Mhm.
move in January. Obviously, a lot of clubs are interested in the Austrian. Obviously, his contract expires in the summer, and Bayern wants some money for him. £25 million has been circulating the rumours, the rumour mill, but obviously Liverpool are firm favourites because they love doing business with Bayern Munich for some reason, and obviously they are in need of a centre back as much as we are.
Mhm.
And with the injury crisis we have at the moment, with Wan-Bissaka injured and Lindelof injured and Bayern Tuanzebe not exactly the most the most injury prone really. But do you think Alaba's a no-brainer?
I would not sign David Alaba ever for a couple of reasons. I don't trust Bayern Munich. I don't trust Bayern Munich selling a player at all. And whenever they have sold player, the player is already done and dusted. They have taken the best of that player. You think about players who have signed from Bayern Munich to other clubs, apart from Tony Cruz to a certain extent. We signed Owen Hargreaves. Injuries hounded him, right?
Okay.
We signed Bastian Schweinsteiger, who was already past his prime. Look at this season, Thiago Alcantara. Bayern Munich had no problems in offloading Thiago Alcantara ever. They were happy to offload him. They never stood on the way like how we are standing at Paul Pogba's door saying that, you know what, stay for a year X. Bayern Munich are happy to sell players, and especially David Alaba. Most of my friends who are Bayern Munich supporters, when I speak to them, they're like, he's okay, just get rid of him because he comes with a big baggage of continuous increase of wages here and there. He wants regular play time. And Bayern Munich as a club is such a big structure that they cannot always guarantee you play time. Imagine you are Benjamin Pavard, who had a fantastic World Cup, played 2 games later, you got injured. They straight away slotted Joshua Kimmich as right back, and he's been a revelation. Now Benjamin Pavard is starting to come back to his original form. So I honestly don't trust. I don't want to buy anymore from Bayern Munich. I just cannot trust why they're selling David Alaba, and that's majorly money issues. Now, second part of it, David Alaba is 28, 29 years old. I have never been a fan of David Alaba. I always found him very susceptible. Although he's a great player, he has good pace. He reads the game well, but he's very susceptible because there are moments in his game where he loses concentration. And I'm not a huge fan of defenders who cannot concentrate for 90 minutes throughout the game at all. And hence, I'm not a huge fan of United signing David Alaba. And on top of it, like you said, 25 million wages. No, that's disaster written all over. I just don't want United to commit to another mistake of David Alabas or any other player while we are slowly and steadily building a team where there are less egos, where people want to play for each other. I would rather give Ted and Mengi a shot at Premier League football rather than sign a David Alaba.
All right. Well, I mean, that is a very good point. I'd never thought of it like that. Obviously, we have had problems with Bayern Munich. I mean, with Thiago, I think that's something that he wanted to join Liverpool more because he'd done everything he could at Bayern and he wanted a new challenge. That's what he said in his interview when he joined. And I think the injury issues he's had this season are to do with that Richarlison challenge in the Merseyside derby and his COVID test.
Yeah.
But no, your point still. I still get that point. I can't really think of any players that Bayern
We
Munich.
asked for a Thomas Muller when he was at his peak. Did
Yeah.
Bayern Munich sell? Did Bayern Munich sell him to us? Of course not. They asked for 100 million at a time where there was no transfer worth 100 million. We tried to sign Kingsley Coman from Bayern Munich when he was on loan from Juventus to Bayern, PSG, and then Bayern. We tried to sign Kingsley Coman. They didn't give us. They tried to offload Kingsley Coman to us in the summer as well because he's injury prone. Again, he's got recently got injured again. Imagine had we signed Kingsley Coman with his injury prone record, it's like a Radamel Falcao deal written all over.
What about Douglas Costa? I mean, they signed him from Juventus and then gave him back to Juventus and then bought him back. I mean, what do you see about that deal? I mean, that seems almost
So
odd.
Bayern Munich have always been a fan of these loan deals, right? I mean, they've done that to Ivan Perisic. They did that with James Rodriguez. They did that with Philippe Coutinho. They would rather try and test the players, and if they feel like buying it, they'll buy. And if the player doesn't fit the bill, they'll sell. And that's how they've traditionally been as a club. Now with Douglas Costa, they had 1 or 2 good seasons with Douglas Costa, and then they offloaded him because he was just a unidirectional player. He still is, right? You get the ball on the left flank, he'll just run, try to cross it. Most of the time, his crosses don't reach. The other part, he's like Daniel James, who just runs. And that's why Douglas Costa is Douglas Costa, and that's why where he's playing, and not even a front choice player as of now. Obviously, age has caught him up. His heroics was maximum lasted at Shakhtar Donetsk because of a couple of good games which Shakhtar plays in Champions League, and then everyone looks at those players. But like I said, there are only 2 clubs which I don't trust when they're selling. One is Arsenal under Arsene Wenger. He usually sold players. That's a very old, Premier League saying, right? Never buy from Wenger. He always sells those players. Apart from Robin van Persie, we've been very lucky with Arsenal. But yeah, Fabregas, he sold to Barcelona. What happened to him? Nothing. At Barcelona, he got sick. He got injured. He didn't play in the first team. He sold Thomas Vermaelen to Arsenal. Didn't work out well for Vermaelen from Arsenal to Barcelona. Didn't work out well for Barcelona. He sold Samir Nasri. Didn't work out well. Gail Clichy. You look at the set of players who sold. They've already been exhausted playing for them. So
to be fair, they all won trophies when they left.
They all won trophies, but you don't sign a player for 1 or 2 years, right? You sign for a long-term prospect. Samir Nasri did well for 2 years. Gail Clichy did well for 1.5 years or 2 years, and then they eventually City sold him because he just wasn't good enough, right? And when City signed Vincent Kompany, he lasted for a decade at Man City. When you're building a team to win trophies regularly again and again, you're not signing a player for 2 years. Do you think we signed Bruno for 2 years? We signed him for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
We signed 5 plus 1 6-year deal, and we know that the team is going to be built around him. Hence, I don't want United to buy players as a short-term fix. Edinson Cavani agreed because he's a world-class striker available, and we know that he's only going to improve our team. With David Alaba, I don't think he's going to improve our team. If I want to really improve our team, I would give a shot at a youth. Axel Tuanzebe decent, but I would really want to see Ethan Laird and Teden Mengi push to Premier League sooner or later, because how long will you keep them out? And I was just reading today that they have trained with the first team.
Yeah.
So they didn't with the first team because some players had been given an off from training. So they're definitely going to be involved here or there. Probably Europa League might be the best start, slowly and steadily, because we're going to play some teams whose names we can't even pronounce. So that might be a good start. But United definitely need a centre back. I'm not denying that aspect. But a player from Bayern Munich, no.
You did say that United couldn't win a trophy without a world-class centre-back, and you said that they needed to go in January. So, I mean, who else would there be that's available?
So, I honestly, if I had to buy someone from Bayern Munich, if let's say Bayern Munich is my preferred club,
anywhere at all, if there's any world-class centre-backs available, I mean, who would you sign?
I would sign someone from AC Milan, Roman Goli. And I've said that in the multiple, even the articles which I wrote, I have always said you need to sign someone like him. One left-footed guy, young guy, 23, 24, smart centre-back, very speed, smart centre-back. He always reminds me of Thiago Silva at AC Milan. There was a reason why Thiago Silva was wanted by the best in the world. That's because he's no nonsense. even today, right? Thiago Silva at Chelsea, 36, 37 years of age, does not have pace. I mean, I say Harry Maguire is 10 times faster than Thiago Silva, obviously. But Thiago Silva at defense is still a rock. He does not let man pass. I want a center back of that particular quality. That's one option for me. I'm not a huge fan of uh, Koulibaly from Napoli. I think his past the time
Mm.
is 28, 29. Another centre back who son is Milan Skriniar from Inter Milan. Inter want to sell him. He wants to leave. The problem is his wages and the amount. They want somewhere around 65, 70 million for him. I would not have any problem paying 60, 65 million for Milan Skriniar when we can pay 80 million for Maguire because of his World Cup performances and Leicester, etc., adding up. So these are two or three options which I have in my mind. But my primary option is to still push a young centre back from the youth to the first team, because I don't want a situation where okay, he's from a different league, will take time to adopt, etc. And we have heard so much from the manager about Eden Mengi. How long will we wait to see him in action?
Mm. That's very true. And I think another thing that complicates that at the moment is the AC Milan and Inter Milan are very close to well, they're in a title challenge right now, and Juventus aren't playing as well. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, AC are top of the table. So,
Yeah, AC Milan Italy is doing a very good
willing to
job.
sell in January.
I think Juventus are seventh or eighth, if I'm not wrong. I think the table is led by AC, Inter, Roma, and I think Sassuolo or someone is reading.
Yeah, I think so. I think it might be Sassuolo even, but could also be Genoa. I can't really remember.
Just
But
let me check. Yeah, so it's AC Milan with 24 points, Inter with 23, Roma with 27, Sassuolo with 26, Napoli 25, Juventus 24.
well, there you go. I mean, it's close as well, like in the Premier League, but so they're not probably going to be willing to sell in January. So I think you are right. I think maybe
Definitely need money. I mean, that's why they are so badly and desperate to win a trophy, because the finances have taken a hit. If they
yeah.
win this year, of course, then it makes the deal a lot more complicated. But with
Mm.
Inter Milan, I honestly don't trust Inter Milan. Inter Milan are like Man City there. Okay, the owner just don't know what to do at one point of time. They'll just sack. And Antonio Conte, we all know, right? I mean, he isn't one of the favorites of people. He will speak his mind up. So with Inter Milan, I still have a lot of hopes from them.
Okay.
That they will
Well,
sell Milan Skriniar. And I just checked, right? Roman Goli and Skriniar both are of 25 years of age. Better
I
age to buy a certificate.
I think Skriniar's older than Romagnoli, but I couldn't say for certain.
Just
Uh,
check. Yeah, Milan Skriniar is 25 and Roman Goli is 25 as well.
oh well, there you go. Okay. Well, I mean, still they've got probably 10 years in there, especially
Exactly.
how.
With David Alaba, again, one injury away, right? At 28, with David Alaba, one rash tackle here or there, and that's it.
Yep.
With his age, he's nearing 30, and he's not the quickest of the defenders we have heard. He's fast, but not very quick. With David Alaba, one big advantage what we have is he will fill multiple positions. We can deploy him as a centre back. We can deploy him as a left back. He's been playing as a left wing back for quite some time of his career. He's even played a centre defensive midfield role. So there are multiple positions David Alaba would fill, but I'm still not buying that hype of buying him at all.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's certainly not long till the January transfer window begins, and no doubt United will always have rumours spreading around of any deal and every deal that they could possibly come up with. One we know for certain is Amad Diallo, so I'm really looking forward to seeing him play. And obviously,
Doesn't it remind you of I don't know how do I put it. Remind you of one of those players who you are like, I just want to see him in action ASAP.
Yes,
He's so
absolutely.
direct.
Well, I mean, I remember watching him for Atalanta against Midtjylland when they were 1-0 down, and the impact he made was actually stunning from someone who's so young and that can have that much of an impact in such a difficult game, really, because we know how Midtjylland play. They play 10 men behind the ball and
Moneyball football. That's what their nickname
is.
is.
They play anti-football. They play West Brom football. So it was a big game, and he made a massive difference. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing him play, and I hope we get all the paperwork sorted so that he can play against Watford, because I think that is going to be a time where we can bleed a few of the younger players into the first team. So we'll have to see. But we'll get on to something if we have a bit of time. I've got a little stat for you about the team prices and things. But before that, we'll go on to United's next match against Wolves. It's such a massive game because of the games that are happening today. Leicester obviously playing against Crystal Palace. Everton are playing Manchester City, and Chelsea are playing someone as well. I can't remember, unfortunately, but they are playing all today. And
Villa.
Sorry?
Chelsea play Aston Villa.
Well, that's a massive game in itself because Villa are in such good form, but it's going to be a massive test for United because if they can win, they can go as high as second and they can put pressure on Liverpool. So to come up against a team that we haven't won against in the league since they've been promoted, doesn't a win it has to happen.
I mean, how much credit do we give to Nuno Espirito, right? I mean, almost every other manager has spoken about him, saying that he's doing a brilliant job with Wolves and the kind of players he's recruiting, the kind of players he's adding, the kind of impact they are having in the Premier League. It's second to none. I mean, after all the romanticism of what Marcelo Bielsa has done, Nuno Espirito deserves most of the credits in the Premier League. Look at the signings they have made. Even in the game against Spurs yesterday, they just did not give up at all. Of course, Jose Mourinho being Jose Mourinho sat back after the first goal, didn't do much. But Wolves looked like a team they wanted to win this game. And how many teams who've been promoted from the championship look like that? And Wolves have been doing it consistently now. We are going to face Wolves minus Raul Jimenez, who's been our Achilles heel for quite some time, and then Adama Traore hasn't scored for an entire year. I just read today in ESPN that it's exact 365 days since Adama Traore has scored a goal. But having said that, there is Ruben Neves, there is Neto, there is Daniel Podence, there is that young Portuguese striker who plays up. I think his name is Felix.
Silva.
Yeah, the curly head. You saw his attempt yesterday, half a chance, and he just shot. And I was like, wow, that's quick. I mean, you don't do that at such a young age. And I mean, you need to have an eye for a goal like that. And this Wolves team, okay, I mean, as much as Jamie Carragher can say that they can challenge for Premier League title, it's sooner or later if they get good investments, etc., etc. But this Wolves team looked like a team which we may struggle to beat because they are very compact, they are direct, and above all, they want to win. Their desire to win every game is right up there. I mean, you look at the players they've signed. Nelson Semedo is having a decent season with Wolves. He's on and off most of the time. Vingare is doing well. Connor Cody has always been the rock for quite some time. The midfield is packed. So it's going to be an interesting game. But having said that, I think United might just push them because they're going to give us a lot of spaces.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not used to playing that often in midweek. Obviously, they did manage it against in the Europa League last year, but then they did struggle in the league games after playing on a Thursday night. So it is going to be something we can overwhelm them with, really, because we do have the numbers in the team to make a few changes. And with that in mind, I mean, do you see a few changes being made to the side that played against Leicester?
No, I don't think we're going to go full strength with Leeds. If I had to make a change, I would not start Daniel James. I would start Mason Greenwood, of course, on the right hand side.
Yeah, but we've seen Rashford, Martial, and Cavani play in that front three against PSG and Başakşehir. Not for you?
No, not for me. I think Cavani is in the form of his life, and Ole in the presser today said that Cavani is going to start the game because he said that I cannot rest him often, and he's fully fit to start. And whenever he's come on as a sub, he's always made an impact. How much do I delay his start? And Ole used a particular statement saying that you will see him start more often than not from now on. So I am thinking that it is going to be Edinson Cavani up front, Greenwood on the right side, left hand side will be Rashford. I think he will start to use Martial as an impact sub or change here or there in some of the mid games. But he will want to cash in on Cavani's rich vein of form one, and secondly, Cavani offers much more of a different variety as a striker than what Martial does because we have a tall, towering centre forward. Okay, with Alex Telles starting as a left back or Shaw starting as left back, his tracking has improved massively. With the kind of header what Rashford got, I don't think Cavani is going to miss that because the kind of clinical goal scorer he is, he's not going to miss that. That would be my front three: Rashford, Cavani, and Greenwood.
So you don't see United starting with a back five to try and combat the wingers of Wolves?
No, I don't think so. I mean, couple of criticism which Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has got in recent time is that he's been too pragmatic. He starts with two defensive midfielders, etc., etc. But the kind of situation we are in right now, I think Ole will go for the kill now because he cannot sit back always. And if he wants to really, really challenge for the Premier League title, as much as he wants to deny saying that I'll wait till March, April, etc. I think Ole has got one eye on Premier League and one eye on the FA Cup, if I have to put it that way, because he wants to win either of it now. He's not much worried about Europa as of now, but he needs a trophy, and he said that very clearly that he wants to win a trophy this year. And he might be looking at the big one, which is Premier League. Too early, I would say, but he definitely has got an eye. And it's not those games which we can't win, right? The City game we could have won, but both teams decided to play pragmatic football. The Chelsea game was another bore fest. I mean, we had the chances, we didn't take it up. Arsenal was one of outlier. Yesterday's game we could have taken it, we could have won it. It's not that we're playing bad football, it's just chances which we're missing. Sometimes maybe because of a pragmatism, sometimes we don't finish off the games. But with the Wolves team and the kind of fixtures they have, they don't have rest. They didn't play midweek last week. They played it this week, so they are going to be under the pressure. And if they're under the pressure, we can definitely go out and win. See, our football is basically speed and skill, and
Yeah.
I don't think any Premier League team has got that kind of pace like what we have. And we've shown that to the entire world against Leeds that you give us an iota of space, we'll hit it and we'll hit it hard. So and the Leeds and the Wolves game is going to be all about spaces. We are going to get spaces in that game. So
Yeah.
I see a back. I'm just thinking in my head. It's going to be a 4-3-2-1 for us.
Yeah. 4-3-2-1. So I mean, who do you see as the right back? Obviously, Wan-Bissaka's back in training, but do you see the back line being Telles, Maguire, Bailly, Tuanzebe, or do you see Wan-Bissaka coming back in?
I see Wan-Bissaka coming back into the lineup straight because we need his defensive solidity. Although he's had an average season so far, he's not his best compared to what he was in the first half of last season. So I
Yeah.
see a back four of Telles. If I would not start Shaw in this game, but I would start Telles just to get that attacking instinct more because I want to see United go for the kill in this game. So I want to go all attack mode. So I want to see David Dyer at the back if he's fit because we don't know actually what the situation is because of his back scare last game.
Yeah.
So I think David Dyer should start. David Dyer. I would have Alex Telles. I would have Maguire. Lindelof, I don't think will start this game. It's going to be Eric Bailly because he's
Yeah.
still not fit. He's off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be Eric Bailly and then Wan-Bissaka.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think that would work because I think Wan-Bissaka could deal with Podence because the kind of technical dribbling he has, Wan-Bissaka is
Yes.
so good against. We saw it against Neymar, against Sterling, against
Mm.
Mane, countless times. So
Yeah.
I think that is good. What I would worry about is Telles maybe getting caught out against Traore because Traore knows he's stronger and quicker than Telles, and then he's
Yeah.
only got is a one-on-one with Maguire, which honestly gives me a few nightmares. But if it is him or Neto, they do fancy themselves. So it would be interesting to see how Ollie lines up. But overall, I would probably agree with that back four.
Yeah.
The midfield two, I really hope Fred doesn't start this game because the amount of time he needs on the ball, Wolves will just know, press him, we'll win the ball back in a high position. So I hope it's either Pogba or Van der Beek alongside McTominay because I think Matic's legs aren't there for this kind of game. Maybe against Villa, we'd be better off, but against Wolves, no chance. Bruno again has to start, and for me, I would say Cavani, Martial, and Rashford because I think when they play, Rashford can cause problems down that right-hand side when he's more direct, and Martial can sort of peel off. And I think it'll be against Semedo, who likes to go forward. So hopefully Martial can counter that and make Semedo stay back. So we'll have to see. But predictions? Do you see United winning?
Yeah, I do see United winning this game. I think United will win 2-0 in this game.
Well,
I don't think Wolves are going to score because suddenly it seems that Wolves, there's a dearth of goals because of the absence of Raul Jimenez. And as much as Roman says scored that brilliant header, with Raul Jimenez on the pitch, right, you always had that fear that you give him half a chance, Raul Jimenez will score it. In that Wolves front line, of course, they have great dribblers like you mentioned, Daniel Podence, Neto, all of those sort of players, and then of course you have those brilliant free kicks which can happen from Ruben Neves here and there. But I still don't think they are as effective as a team without Raul Jimenez. So I think
Yeah.
United will win this game.
Well, of course, they're missing two of their best players. Jota obviously off to Liverpool, and Jimenez with his unfortunate injury. Good to see him back in the
Yeah.
stadium, by the way, watching the game against Tottenham. But I think you're right. I think they aren't the strongest anymore. They were certainly amazing the last couple of years, and this year they've had their few issues.
Hmm.
I think United can capitalise on the mistakes they do make, because I think Tottenham, the thing Tottenham didn't do is actually
Have
keep
you also
attacking.
that Wolves are very shaky at the start? Wolves
Yeah,
are very shaky.
yeah,
They take, it's like one of those teams where they take time to grow during as soon as the clock starts ticking. So the backs are very shaky. As soon as the game progresses, they become a
yeah,
lot more authoritative. And yesterday's Spurs capitalized
absolutely.
on that itself. They were very shaky in the beginning. They got a chance, and Domble scored it. So I
Mm.
think if we make an impact right at the start, right, I really
Like we
want
did
Wolves to
against
chase
Leeds.
this game. Yeah, I want Wolves to chase this game rather than us.
Yeah,
That's my motive of winning this game. That if when you put them under pressure, they will buckle down. And not every team
yeah,
is Tottenham Hotspurs who would sit back for 86 minutes of the game. After 21 minutes, they didn't have a shot on target. They didn't have a shot in the game. Forget on target. They didn't have a shot in the
mm.
game. So I want Wolves to chase this game rather than we chasing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact is that we haven't really given them many chances down the years. They've not really had many
Yeah.
chances to score, but the ones they take, they score with. So
Hmm.
it's about literally making sure that we are in the best position to give them their few moments, and then we are all the team is focused and able to prevent them from having that one moment of brilliance. But we'll have to see. Obviously, still yet to beat Wolves in the Premier League since they've been promoted. Only one win in all competitions, and that was a 1-0 win in the FA Cup where Mata scored. And also Rashford had that back injury. So, I mean, highs and lows there. But going against Aston Villa is again a crucial game because it happens just a few days after. It's a tough fixture list and another home game which United again have to win.
Hmm.
Villa obviously are in good form and are probably in the running for top four as it stands because of their two games in hand, making it much showing sort of fewer signs of progress, even though they are still around sixth or seventh place and playing Chelsea tonight, as you reminded me. And I will just say, I think Crystal Palace are drawing with Leicester City now. Zaha scored and Barnes got an equaliser out of nothing, so another one for Harvey Barnes. But going into the Villa game, it's a must-win game.
Yeah.
And do you see rotation? I personally want Van der Beek to start instead of Bruno in this match, and maybe get Greenwood and Cavani going and give Rashford a break too. I mean, we won't talk about the selection as much because it's quite difficult to see. But what result do you see happening?
I think United should, for that game, right? I want Dean Henderson to start rather than David Daya at the back, because the game against West Ham, that error might have just deflated him to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not an error which you see from goalkeeper often, and especially Dean has been rated so highly, supposedly England's number one keeper in the coming years, etc., etc. And to make that kind of mistake isn't great. So Aston Villa might be the game which can give him that confidence, although he would definitely want to make a lot of saves. But I expect United to keep Villa at bay. That's one change which I want to see, and the other change which I want to see Tuanzebe start in that game, because I want to see how well he deals with someone like Jack Grealish, because Jack Grealish will, he auditioned for his role at Old Trafford last year, and what a game he had, right? And I want to see how Tuanzebe starts marking him, because Tunzabe as a player also struggles against pace, and we have seen it. Although he's marked Neymar, Sterling, etc., etc. I'm sorry, not Sterling, Neymar and Mbappe, all those sorts of players. But
Mm-hmm.
Tunzabe on his debut against Nicolas Pepe took him to cleaners. I'll never forget that moment where Nicolas Pepe did not have a great season, and when Tunzabe made his debut against Arsenal, we lost 2-0, and Nicolas Pepe scored the opener in that game, and he just owned Axel Tunzabe.
I think you might have got your games mixed up there because I don't think Pepe signed when he made his debut. I think that was
No,
Sanchez.
I was just I saw the highlights as well. It was Tunzabe who played that game. Pepe scored on his debut game.
Oh, the one at Old Trafford where he made
Yeah, the
that
one at Old
mistake.
Trafford. Yeah,
Ah, yes. I think that was Aubameyang, I think.
it was Pepe who actually ran through Tunzabe and then crossed for Aubameyang.
Yeah, yeah, that was it. Yeah.
So not once
Um,
or twice, that entire game, right? Nicolas Pepe gave Tunzabe a torrid time. Of
mm,
course, he's got an injury. He's come back. He's a lot stronger now, etc., etc. But still, there's a small amount of doubt in him how he handles space. And in the Basakeshir game, we saw that there was no coordination between the entire defense. We got caught out. He still looks a bit susceptible to play. So I want to see Tunzabe start and defend that game. Probably give a break to Harry Maguire, which I really hope Ole gives, because Ole said that he loves playing games and he does not think about giving Maguire a break, etc., etc.
mm,
But I want to see Tunzabe in that game. And with you, I completely agree. I want to see Van de Beek instead of Bruno in that game, because I really want to see what Van de Beek can do if you give him a number 10 position all by himself.
yeah.
It's a good test for us to see, and against a team like Villa who don't have that luxury to try anything new, because they are where they are, and they go with a template, and they're not going to change it either. And
Mm,
what a revelation Ollie Watkins has been in Premier League, right? I mean, he looks like a one which should be signed by a big club, not now, but sooner or later. Very good player, very smart player, and the likes of Jack Grealish, James Maddison, Yuri Tielemans in Premier League this year. Premier League looks like a game of centre midfielders all around. So it's an interesting game for us, but I think United have got enough firepower to just walk over Villa to a certain extent. I don't think we're going to struggle against Villa. Touchwood.
yeah, no, I mean, the thing is that Villa have that moment where they can get a bit of luck, and they've got players that have a lot of quality, like Watkins and Grealish, and
El
to
Ghazi,
some extent Hurahan. Sorry,
Anwar El Ghazi.
and El Ghazi and El Mohammadi as well. I mean, they've got good players in that team. It's just when they click, and when they don't, it really shows. And I think against Chelsea tonight, we'll see if they are really going to be a
Mm.
proper team that can cause problems to top sides, or maybe that Liverpool game was just a fluke as such. But we'll have to see. For me, I think we can easily win if we're in the right mindset. I'd love to see Van der Beek, because the last time he played in that number 10 role was against West Ham, and it was
Yeah.
awful,
Mm.
because he doesn't demand the ball like Bruno does, and I think he needs to do that a lot more. So we'll have to see how that
And
pans
I
out.
think the midfield that game was the first half was shambolic.
Yeah, yeah.
Pogba, my goodness, he couldn't pass for 2 yards, and then second half we just turned around.
Mm. Well, absolutely, and yeah, I think it's just about finding a groove and maybe getting him sort of involved in the game a bit more. Because when he does get involved in the game, he does shine. So we'll have
Yeah.
to see. But I think 2-0 for United seems like a reasonable result, because I think a clean sheet is a must, because all of our clean sheets so far this season in the league have come at Old Trafford, and I think we need a couple down this avenue. We do have a little bit of time left at the end, so I'm going to share with you a couple of stats.
Yeah.
Um, of the current starting 11s of the top 8 teams, which include City, United, Liverpool, Everton, Leicester, Spurs, and Arsenal, even though they're not technically a top 8 team, but they are sort of regarded as such. The most expensive team is unsurprisingly Man City, who costs just under £600 million. The next most expensive is Chelsea, which is just over 400. United just under 400, and then it's Arsenal, and then guess who's in fifth is the champions Liverpool, with just 340 million for their starting 11. I mean, what does that say about just the teams in that mix?
I mean, couple of things, right? Jurgen Klopp has set out a template of his football team and the recruitment, which most teams are trying to follow right now. What did
Mm,
Jurgen Klopp do as soon as he became the manager? He signed a centre back, which is Virgil van Dijk. He wanted him at any cost. Most of the teams, if you look at it, and then you look at the midfield, right? He's got options all around the field, right? If he's got an injury to Mane, there is Shaqiri who's going to come. There is Origi who's waiting in the lines in the front. If some injury happens in the midfield, he can obviously slot Fabinho here and there, etc., etc. Many multiple combinations which he can try. I think most teams are following a template set by Liverpool right now by trying to improve their bench of world class players. I mean, you look at Liverpool's bench overall, right? Apart from, if I had to say, Minamino, most of them are world class players of their own. I mean, Divock Origi, fine, fair enough. James Miller is obviously world class, just that it's a bit too late for him in his career. But there was never a doubt in James Milner's consistency. He's always been that sort of a player. Uh, Jordan Henderson is. I'm a bit torn between Jordan Henderson. Some people say he's world class. That's why he got the award last year, etc.,
Mm.
etc. But I think Jordan Henderson is just another version of Ander Herrera, who's all action but nothing great. And yeah, I mean,
I would disagree with that. I would disagree with that, but I just think what he brings is. I get what you're saying about the Ander Herrera thing because he presses, he does
yeah,
just pass. But I think the fact is he makes that midfield tick. I mean, you see it when he's in the team and when he's not in the team, how static that midfield is with Fabinho, Keita, and Wijnaldum.
mm,
Wijnaldum doesn't move forwards. Fabinho just sits, which is what his job is, and he's fantastic at it. And Keita or Oxlade-Chamberlain, whoever it is, isn't quite as impactful with their passing, whereas Henderson has that range of passing that I do really admire. And I
so if
think
you replace Henderson with a Thiago Alcantara, their midfield is much more solid, right?
I wouldn't say it was more
He's
solid. I'd say Thiago is a far better passer than Henderson will ever be.
yeah,
Thiago Alcantara is a world class player, but like you said, he's injury prone, whereas Henderson is about as solid and consistent as it gets. And I think they need that in a leader. Whereas and he can come up with a world class assist or even a world class finish like he did against Palace.
yeah. I mean, I've never been a huge fan of Henderson right from his Sunderland days. I always found him as pretty average, and I still find him pretty average because in a team of world class players, he does what you just rightly mentioned: breaks on passes. That's his job. And for me, a captain. So I honestly thought that Virgil van Dijk would be the captain, like because of what he is as a person, a kind of leader, etc., etc. But for me, Henderson was never someone who caught my eye or who's very special. Now, talking about midfielders, I have this question for you. Now, you see, like I mentioned, you see the current lot of midfielders. You have a Jack Grealish, you have a James Maddison, you have a
Mm-hmm.
Harvey Barnes, you have Yuri Tielemans, etc., etc. Of all these current lot, who do you find the most special?
As in with the young midfielders that are in the
Yeah, the
Premier
young
League.
upcoming midfielders, right? I mean, these are main players for their respective clubs, right? The one to watch out for. Like
Okay.
Aston Villa aren't going to sell Grealish for less than 80, 75 odd million.
Yep.
If Yuri Tielemans goes into the market, anyone would command 50, 65 million for him because of the quality of player he is. Harvey Barnes obviously will again go in the same range of 45, 50 million, so on and so forth. Same would be for James Maddison. All up, I wouldn't say world class as of now, but they're all a level above the average midfielders in some of the teams.
Mm-hmm.
So out of them, who do you feel is the one who you really have an eye on? Like, this guy is genuinely talented.
I mean, the way when I see Grealish, I think he's brilliant and he can play in so many roles. And the way he plays can be different. He can be direct. He can be more of a playmaker. He can be an inside forward. He can be even a number 8 at times. I've seen him play for Villa, and his ability to play so well in so many positions is exceptional.
He's a
But
leader at such a young age.
as well, yeah, exactly. But I genuinely think Yuri Tielemans could be one of the best players, one of the best midfielders in the world in
I
about
agree.
2 or 3 years' time. I would not be surprised if when Tony Kroos decides to retire,
Hmm.
that Real Madrid come calling for Yuri Tielemans because honestly, he's one of the best passers I've ever seen. He shifts it so quickly. I remember when he played against us when he was at
Yeah.
Anderlecht in the Europa League.
Yes.
He gave our midfield the run around, even though it was Fellaini, Carrick, and Herrera. It was still, an
Hmm.
18-year-old midfielder who just shifted the ball so nicely. And he punished England with a couple of fantastic hits as well. So he's got a lot in his locker, and I think
I
he's going.
honestly didn't think you would say Tielemans. I thought you would say Madison because I've been a huge fan of Yuri Tielemans for almost 2, 3 years now.
Mm,
And he's, apart from Harry Maguire, if there was one player who's played every minute in the Premier League, it's Yuri Tielemans for Leicester.
wow.
And he's such an integral part of that Leicester lineup. And like you rightly said, his passing range is brilliant. He quickly shifts the game. One important aspect of Yuri Tielemans is his vision. And you actually hit the nail on its head saying that in a couple of years when Toni Kroos decides to retire, if Real Madrid are looking for a replacement, they have a ready-made replacement in Yuri Tielemans. He's improving his defensive abilities in the game,
Hmm.
along with NDD, he's now started to sit back a little bit. Now he's playing the role between a 6 and an 8, while predominantly he was a number 10. But right now with Leicester, there's James Maddison who plays that role and Harvey Barnes shifting here and there.
Mm.
As a football fan, when you watch these kind of players who are adding different facets to the game, right? You think and then you see probably that guy I would like I would want him at my club. If United sell Pogba and they're looking for a midfielder with some kind of stability, some kind of strength, I would
Mm.
definitely go for Yuri Tielemans. And if they command 60, 75 million, whatever amount, I would pay and get Yuri Tielemans in that squad because he is someone different to what we have in our current lot.
Yeah. Well, one thing I would say is actually that whole Leicester midfield and DD, Tielemans and Maddison, honestly, in about 2 or 3 years' time, we'll see where they are, but I think they could be world-class players. And DD is already showing how amazing he is. No one thought...
I mean, he's scouted by Bayern Munich. I was reading a couple of days back. He's scouted by Bayern Munich because of his tackling ability and versatility, etc., etc. So the Leicester midfield, like you rightly said, is special.
Yeah.
Out of which, how many people make it to the big level? We'll see to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the thing is, we're never probably going to do business with Leicester ever again because of not because Maguire was a flop, because I don't think that. It's more because of the price that they set for these players, and it's so astronomical. It's ridiculous. And I think honestly, if Real Madrid came calling for Tielemans, they'd say, "Oh, you know what? You can have him for 20 quid and a packet of chips."
This one can't pay for 50 million. I still don't understand it, right? This one can't pay for 50 odd million, and this one Maguire for 80 million. And Kante had 5 years of his contract left, while Maguire had only 3.5 years. And when I read about it, and when the deal was going through, I was like 80 million, really. And of course, he needed a centre back badly, so we had to pay that money.
Yeah. Well, Kante wasn't even 50; he was 30. So that even more shows that really. But it is a surprise. But I think they knew they could take Ed Woodward for a fool, really. So I think that's pretty much it there.
Nothing new.
I'm afraid that is all we have time for this week. Thank you for listening, and thank you to Prashant for joining me. It's been a pleasure talking to you about a whole range of topics, and hopefully we can have a few more wins and positivity going into 2021.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. If you have any questions or any topics you would like for us to discuss next time, please comment below on the Twitter poll or on the live chat when the podcast is live. And if you